And we're live. Hello everybody, welcome along. I am going to make sure that the other bits and pieces are up and running. Make sure that's all public because we've got YouTube, we've got people saying hello, which is great. But I want to make sure that Facebook is saying hello as well. So we'll get rid of that. Excellent. Also, I've got a new Patreon scroller. And I'm hoping this comes up because I did want to showcase those people that donate a little bit more. So we've got our English breakfast patrons, and then we've got our Darjeeling patrons as well. These are the people who are donating more than $2. They're really kind of allowing us to keep doing what we do. So thank you very much indeed to all our amazing Patreon supporters. We've got Clydine Nee who's joining. Hello Leonard. Hello Clydine. It's great to see you and great to have you joining us. We've got Michael P. Good morning from Colorado Springs. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Michael. Yeah, and everybody else who's going to be joining us along. This one's going to be an interesting one because we've got ourselves a group of people who are joining us for today's show. Our first guest is somebody who's been a very busy chap when it comes to certainly Asylum Press. He's certainly spreading the word of some incredible books which Asylum are putting out, but also his work with what he's doing for himself in terms of storyboarding and his own comics, and also yeah, but basically his own projects. He's been a busy chap, and also as an editor for heavy metal. So we're going to be talking to Frank Forte very shortly indeed. But we've also got ourselves a special guest, a couple of special guests. They're going to be talking about virtual cons and about how, I mean, I've got a document open at the moment with the layout and the schedule for virtual cons for the next 4-5 weeks, and it's a busy, packed schedule. We're going to get into that, considering that a lot of these are pretty big shows, including Lakes International Comic Art Festival, including Thought Bubble. All of these shows are on the way, and quite frankly, there's not a great deal of chatter. So we're going to get into that and talk about that with some special guests a little bit later. But all in all, this is going to be an interesting show, and I hope you're up for this. Welcome along. Hello there and welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. I don't have a cup of tea to hand because I've been running around all weekend and I haven't even had the chance to put the kettle on. But don't worry, I think we'll be fine. Considering that this week and this weekend has been a bit of a strange one. I'm still working on a bit of a mental hangover from the third day. I tried to catch up with as much of the 12-hour live broadcast that was put up on Sky and HBO yesterday. So that's been a bit of a creative head spin. I've also been preparing for a panel which I'm presenting for the Lakes International Comic Art Festival next weekend. Yeah, there's also loads of other conventions and things I've been distracted by. Hopefully you've been distracted by other things than the things that are in the national news. Hopefully you're finding some way to decompress from the national conversation, well indeed the worldwide conversation. Hopefully this is a show which will allow you to kind of decompress for an hour or so and talk Comic-Cons, con culture and all the stuff and nonsense that we get to enjoy. Some great guests on the way to talk to, but first thing first, I do want to say hello to everyone who's watching because this is your show as always, and we want to welcome you. Clydine Nees joining us. Hello. It's a pleasure to have you joining us, Clydine. We've got Michael P. Good morning from Colorado Springs. And we've got Into the Blue Mister. Hello from a horrible, dark, rainy Wales. Spent the afternoon watching North by Northwest on the BBC iPlayer. Time well spent. I totally get it. Certainly, I mean, considering that the debate was on Tuesday, hasn't this week been a great month? It's just been non-stop. It's just been a full foray of bits and pieces. But that's also when it comes to conventions, which are coming up. I've got a doc open with a full 5 weeks worth of non-stop conventions, all happening online. We've got festivals, we've got cartoonist exhibitions, lots of stuff that's happening, and it's really kind of proving that there is so much distraction still happening, even though we're not heading out to conventions. So much content that we're getting to enjoy, not only in terms of television shows and virtual conventions, but also some great comics and some great comic art, which is why it's a joy to welcome my first guest to the show. We've got Frank Forte joining us. Hello there, Frank. How are you, sir? Oh, hang on a second. Try again. There we go.
How are you doing? I'm doing okay myself.
Yes, it's like I say, proving so much things happening in the space. It's almost like life's happening at warp speed at the moment. What's things in your sphere of influence at the moment? Because I mean, the reason why we've got you on the show today is because you're a particularly busy chap yourself.
Yeah, a little too busy, right? So I'm broadcasting here. This is my little studio from in Glendale, California. But yeah, during COVID, I mean, COVID's crazy, right? Like, what are you supposed to do? You try to remain positive. You try to get stuff done. You try to like focus, and then you can't focus. I mean, it's crazy. So, I try to stay busy. I haven't been working in doing storyboards for animation and film because a lot of the productions have been shut down, especially live action. Animation's been going, so I've been using this time to really create comics, do drawings, work on pitches. I wrote a couple of anthology books in prose. I haven't written prose in a while, so I did that. So I've been trying to focus and really get things done. I did a month of original cartoons on YouTube. So, with this time where I'm not working, I'm trying to use it to my best advantage.
Well, that was something that I was going to bring up because everything that we've been talking to people, certainly over the course of the summer, and talking about the content that we're going to be enjoying going forward to the rest of 2020, 2021, everyone's just been saying animation is going to be huge, purely because of the fact that most of the talent have all been locked indoors. Studios have been shut down, and when it comes to animation, it's something that can be done remotely. So yeah, we're expecting the animation boom of 2021 to be just around the corner. But I mean, for yourself, I mean, like I said in my introduction, busy bee, but also when it comes to the stuff that you're doing with Asylum Press, which is the thing that I'm really wanting to talk to you about, because what Asylum's doing at the moment is just incredible. But also for heavy metal as well, with the kind of refocusing and the way that has been shifting. But we'll get all into that. We'll introduce you first. For everyone who doesn't perhaps know who Frank Forte is, introduce yourself, sir.
So, Frank Forte, I'm a writer, artist, comic artist, animator, storyboard artist. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff over the years. And, I kind of, I worked in comics in the 90s doing a lot of the black and white, during the black and white horror boom. I did Vampire Versus, worked with Cry for Dawn, Boneyard Press, a bunch of independent publishers. And, I found it really hard to, make a living in comics, even though I loved it. It was really difficult, especially being indie. So around 2002, I moved out to LA and tried to get work doing storyboards, which was pretty. It was definitely, there was more work. It was lucrative. There was a union. You could have benefits. So I started working in animation and kind of moved my way up to working in film and feature TV, feature animation, and live action film. And then, always loved heavy metal, started getting stories in heavy metal, and then Kevin Eastman asked me to edit some issues. And then when the ownership changed over, I just stayed on. So I bring in short stories, serials, and then Asylum Press is my own company where we haven't really put out books in a while. We put out Fearless Dawn and some other books, but we're working on making a comeback in 2021, I would say, maybe late 2020. I know we're going to run some Kickstarters.
I'd say you're kicking back at the engine about now, to be fair.
Yeah, we're just putting out some stuff digitally. We're on Webtoon, so we're just kind of trying to put out content in a way that people could get back into us and be reacquainted with us, because we've been out of the Diamond Previews catalog for quite some time. So it's about reacquainting with our fans, bringing in new fans, and saying, hey, this is coming out soon.
I mean, how would you explain what Asylum Press is? Because I mean, for myself, the titles are. I mean, it's great to have a horror label out there, because it's something which is kind of underserved. It's still kind of under the shadow of previous decades of horror comics.
Totally. So I got a little show and tell here if you guys want to see some stuff. Asylum of Horrors. This was one of our books that came out, I don't know, like 2008, but, horror anthology, just a lot of really cool writers and artists from all over the world doing horror. So we had a good time with this one. Detox was featured in heavy metal. This is a post-apocalyptic type of, not really so much a Mad Max, but post-apocalyptic warrior who tries to cleanse the earth of the mutants. So Nenad Gusunja is the artist, and he's based in Croatia. But this was really fun, and 2 chapters of this were actually published in heavy metal. Fearless Dawn, as you know, this is Steve Mannion. We did probably a 4-issue miniseries and then a bunch of the black and white stuff. This was the 4-issue color series. And as you know, Steve Mannion, Fearless Dawn is now with Albatross Books, but they just put out Fearless Dawn meets Hellboy. But these are some of Asylum Press's books: Fearless Dawn Chibi Finale. This was another book. Zombie Terrors. This was a horror book that we did. Zombie Anthology. And the cover was Ali Fell. He's from the UK. You probably know Ali.
Yeah.
Him. So he did our cover. And this is just a great zombie anthology of, writers and artists from all over the world, kind of in the vein of heavy metal, but, just a cool zombie, post-apocalyptic book.
Because, I mean, the books that I've read from Asylum Press, I mean, they definitely sit in the kind of the same shelf space as heavy metal, because there is, it's not a straight B-movie wham bam kind of set of stories. They've got some real grit and texture to them, which I think is certainly it feels as what you have brought for Asylum Press, and I'm guessing that's kind of the tone that you're going for, that there's some real texture to these stories.
Yeah, like Warlash is one that's kind of like a RoboCop meets Judge Dredd. I've always loved Judge Dredd, so this is kind of like influenced by that type of stuff. Eek, but yeah, like Eek is a horror anthology by Jason Paulos, and he's from Australia. And one of the cool things about Eek was that he draws in all these different styles, so it almost seems like there's a bunch of different artists, but it's really all him just kind of mimicking the style of an old House of Mystery or Eerie and Creepy. And I just love this book. If you like old Eerie's and Creepies and House of Mystery, Eek is great.
I did like that book, because it is very much harking back to the old EC stuff.
Yeah, totally. So but most of the stuff we've done, I would say, is horror and sci-fi. But then we have this book, which is Farmhouse, written by my wife Elizabeth and illustrated by Simon Kudransky. Oh wait,
there you go.
Kudransky, who did Spawn and Batman. He did this book early on before he got really big, and this is kind of like a dark thriller. So this is kind of like a dark character drama, but a thriller. So this is kind of like, Asylum Press expanding into, more character-driven stories, thrillers, dark dramas, stuff like that. So we are going to be expanding because while we love horror and sci-fi, and I do, I think as a publisher, you kind of have to expand a little bit so that you can widen your audience and just, make comics and stories that are, just a wider range of stories, I guess.
I'm curious as to why that you've decided to put them all under the Asylum Press banner instead of, say, creating a second title, because Asylum very much has set itself a great stall, and really has set it's put itself out there for a certain style of storytelling and comics. I'm wondering why you didn't, say, go for a second umbrella to kind of take these new stories on.
Yeah, like an imprint. I don't know. Like, I don't know if Asylum Press will ever be like super huge, like IDW or something like that. Those guys publish.
You gotta think big, man.
I don't know though. When you get too big, you run the risk of. I mean, look, anything can happen, right? But I always see myself as kind of a small publisher, publishing niche titles, doing really good stories. And look, if the books do well and I'm making money and I could do more stuff, fine, But I think getting an imprint is like, I don't know how many, like, will I do 20 titles like this? If I did, then maybe. If I'm only going to do maybe 5, I just don't know if an imprint is right. It's just a lot of work, because with an imprint, this is what happens. Then you need to get the social, right? The social needs the imprint, then the website, then more press releases, then more logos, and then more, then you create a third imprint. Then you're like, I got to get all the social for that. And it just becomes this crazy, it just gets nuts. So I would rather just keep it under Asylum for now, like the way Vault does. Like, I guess Vault does have an imprint now. Or like Black Mask, Black Mask is doing that kind of stuff, or Aftershock. I don't know if Aftershock has an imprint, but they publish all sorts of stuff, right? Sci-fi, fantasy, horror, but it's all under Aftershock. So
I think with Aftershock, I mean, it's proving difficult for them because they are stretching out into so many different genres so different, and it's difficult to corral all of those under one banner.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't perceive that they would have a problem. Maybe people look at Image though. Image doesn't really have imprints, and they do all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Except for Skybound, and I guess you have the little studio still. Yeah, I don't know. I think the reason is having imprints is a little too much work. Although I will say that we do have a children's book imprint that we're doing in that, because that's a children's book type stuff. That's going to be an imprint because it's so much different. Like, you couldn't have an ABC book under Asylum Press. What? So that is something I'm working on, and we're getting some children's books. Like, we're going to be on Library Pass, and we're going to be on some other apps digitally and go to print later. But I am, looking into doing some stuff like that. We're creating some titles right now, actually.
Sure. Asylum Press as well. It's going under a number of the digital platforms, and also going out to print as well. You're kind of eschewing the whole Kickstarter and crowdfunding effort that everyone else seems to be going at. What are the challenges of making, relaunching and kind of putting the Asylum Press banner back out into the kind of the landscape of comics at the moment? What's the biggest challenge, would you find? Because there are so many titles vying for space out there at the moment, especially considering we are seeing the kind of the engine of the comics industry kicking back up again after COVID.
Yeah, well, right. It's definitely difficult during COVID because you've got a lot of stores closed, bookstores closed. I mean, I think it's a matter of hitting social all the time, hitting my newsletter, trying to build up the newsletter so that you have a fan base that will go out and buy the comics when they're available. And also press releases. You have to send out press releases. You have to get press coverage. We're doing trailers for YouTube. I mean, it's kind of hitting everything and trying to get your core fan base. I think it's a lot of it is about building the newsletter list, building your newsletter list of your core fans that will come out and support your titles, and just hitting it out there with social, updating the website, getting the SEO so people can find you, and then once the books are out, making sure that they get good reviews, making sure that they're available everywhere, because what we're thinking about is doing, at least for now, less floppies and more like collected trades like this, so that we're available in comic stores and bookstores right off the bat. Floppies are great and we'll do them, but it's nice to have these collections where you could just, be in a bookstore and a comic store at the same time. Because I think comic stores are limited because there's only about, 2,000 of them in the States, and it's kind of hard to get them to buy it because of the non-returnability factor with Diamond. But with bookstores, books are returnable, so more stores are apt to stock you, so you're on the shelves and you can be purchased. So I do kind of like both factors of the bookstore and the comic book store. And as for Kickstarter, we're going to do it.
You are,
yeah. Doing one for Beyond Doomsday. That's another thing I was here to promote too. Is Beyond Doomsday is a website, beyonddoomsday.com, and that's a post-apocalyptic news site that you can go to and get everything post-apocalyptic. But it's also a collected edition of my stories. Yeah, there it is. So Beyond Doomsday, if you sign up for the newsletter, you can get you get a bunch of free digital comics, actually. And Ryan Brown, also from the UK, did the cover, an amazing cover, by the way, who now he's like huge, right? Marvel, DC, he's all over the place. I mean, Ryan Brown is massive. So we're hoping that like his cover will help sell books. And like, this is definitely going to be a Kickstarter because, I don't know how many it could sell. And just if you can get the fans to help launch it, we could use the money for promotion, for printing, for storing, for a marketing campaign. Otherwise it would be difficult. But I mean, we've got some amazing names in it, right? And like I would say half of these stories were featured in heavy metal. Like I had them printed in heavy metal. And then the other half is going to be all new stuff. So it's stuff that was in heavy metal and then a bunch of new stuff that you've never seen before. And we're using writers and artists from all over the world again. So it's got the heavy metal vibe, but also the vibe of like, Epic Illustrated or eerie and creepy, but all with post-apocalyptic sci-fi vibe, so that'll be our first, I think that'll be Asylum Press's first foray back into publishing. And from that, I think, I wouldn't say I'm opposed to putting almost every book on Kickstarter, because if you could get the fan base, it's nice to have a little seed money, 5,000, 10,000 to help you get the book out there,
Sure. I mean, we had this conversation last week because we had s08e08 joining us on the show, who obviously has had a very successful Kickstarter in the course of the last week. And what we kind of discussed was that Kickstarter is, while it's there to obviously raise a capital or pay artists and writers, etc., it's very much about the conversation with your audience, and it's very much creating that one-to-one connection and finding the kind of interest and finding what an audience is wanting to go out. And so that's what we're certainly seeing from successful crowdfunding and Kickstarter campaigns, which is why I'm really curious about Asylum Press and about Doomsday, because I had this conversation with someone on social media this week about horror titles and certainly niche sci-fi titles as well. In that it's very difficult to actually get those in the stores. It's a genre which is very difficult to grab people's attention. I mean, obviously, once you've kind of got their eyeballs on you, that's fine. But just to sometimes horror is something that is still treated very much as a bit of a niche project in comics. What's been the challenge to get people's attention to Asylum Press as a horror title or as a series of horror titles when horror isn't necessarily the strongest genre out there at the moment?
Yeah, right. Well, back when we were publishing, like for one thing, I always think a great cover sells the book. And Ali Fell, in my opinion, man, he's one of the best out there. I just love his covers. He does girls great, he does horror great, and he renders. This is another cover he did. He renders
Yeah, there we go.
And he did Eek. Like, look at all the covers he did for us. Eek, and then let's see. And then like Warlash. This wasn't Ali Fell, but this is another like rendered cover. I think covers are very important. I think you have to have the interiors, but I also think for comic stores you have to really nurture a relationship with the retailers in that you show them a full preview of the book. Just give it away. This is what the book is. It's done. We're going to ship on time. And you can follow that up with promotional material in the stores like posters, postcards. Now a lot of stores have video screens in their stores, so you can upload video and trailers and 1920 by 1080 promotional images where stores run promotional images. So it's about doing
everything and anything, man. Yeah,
doing anything and anything, and knowing like I didn't know that stores have run videos for. It's mainly for promoting the gaming. Like gaming is very integrated with stores where they run trailers and like 1920 by 1080 ads. So now that I know that stores have these video things in there, I'm like, well, I'll send you some. Will you run them? And they're like, of course we will. We want to do that. So you have to kind of figure out ways to get there. But posters is a big thing. Stores still like posters. People think that they don't want them, but you can't make them too big. Like they have to be legal size. Small, because if you make a giant poster, stores are like, we don't have room for that. So you have to know that a store wants a small poster that they can put up for a month and take down. That will fit in this little area. Look at a comic store. There's no room for anything. So you have to know what will fit and what they can use. And I think it's a matter of doing that, doing trailers, and then just letting people know that it's in the stores. It's this constant promotional battle. And, there are Facebook groups like Final Order Cutoff where you can just let the retailers know. Like with comic stores, it's very important to let the retailers know what's coming in so they can stock the item. But at the same time, I think because in Diamond and with previews, it's very difficult to get your titles in stores because they're non-returnable, right? So stores have to put out the money, and if they don't sell it, they're going to lose the money. So you really have to convince them that this book is going to sell for them to order it. With bookstores, it's different. They're returnable. They'll stock 10 issues of it. If it doesn't sell, they ship them back. It's not that big of a risk. So you're always fighting with like, no, listen, this book is good. Order it, please. I know it'll sell. I like the idea that Diamond is now instituting returnability with certain publishers can have returnability like Boom. And that's another reason why I think Boom, Image, and I forget exactly who's doing it, but they'll sell like 50,000 of a floppy. That's like unheard of for an indie sci-fi book, but it's because it's returnable. Hey, I'll order 10, 20 of these. If it doesn't sell, I ship it back. That's a great incentive for a store to order a book. If this is $5 and it costs the store $2 and they don't sell it, that's money lost, So I think returnability in comic stores, I think, is something that has to be, addressed and talked about, and like, hey, why does a floppy only sell 2,000 to 2,000 comic stores? That's such a low number. I know the readers are out there. You have to figure out a way to get on those shelves.
Absolutely. You've got to get their attention. I think that's the core thing. Just a quick comment here from Into the Blue Mister. Give me a horror title over a superhero title any day of the week. Joe Hill's DC line has been cracking.
Right. No,
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. And Joe Hill, I love those books. Like DC has a huge, Hill House Comics. It's got this huge, line of horror, and I think horror has always been there. It's always been there, but yeah, like Tights and Capes always outsell it, especially from DC. But you could do pretty well with a good horror title. Like look at Hellboy, that's basically a horror title. All the Mignola stuff from Dark Horse is basically horror, and I think there's definitely a place for it. There's a huge fan base for horror. I mean, look at movies. Movies is big. Look at Stephen King, and look at all the horror shows on TV, like Netflix or The Haunting of Hill House or all the Blumhouse movies. There is a fan base out there for horror, but for comics, it's smaller. But you just got to find that fan base and just draw them in,
Absolutely. Certainly one way that some publishers, when they have been wanting to relaunch, is using conventions to get that the product into people's hands where they can actually physically see it and get there. How difficult are you finding relaunching Asylum Press when there are no shows in 2020 at the moment? Is it something that's really hurt you in terms of getting books and into the eyeballs of people, or is it something that it's a distraction that's actually kind of been to your favor? I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult. I don't like not having conventions. I really like interacting with people, and you can sell books. But again, like Asylum hasn't really printed a new book in a while. Most of the stuff that we put out is either a digital book, a print-on-demand book, where you can get it on Amazon, or we're really just trying to unload back issues, and we're giving discounts 15, 20%. We're running a lot of sales on the newsletter. So we're trying to just move the old books and get them into people's hands who maybe have not seen it and be like, this is what we published. Stick around for some of the new stuff. So yeah, like Chopper, Zombie Terror, Satan Gone Wild is another anthology that we put together called Satan Circus of Hell. So you can see a bunch of the titles that we've done are available online, and if you sign up for the newsletter, we're like I said, you'll get a discount for the store. And there's like Blake Dixon, that's a preview for a new title. Like if you want to click on that, you could see some of, I think I have one page or a couple pages. This is like some of the new stuff. So this is going to be featured. One story will be featured in Beyond Doomsday. Or maybe, is there any more?
On that page, no.
Interesting. Well, I mean, we're going to post some more stuff. So that's like a kind of a Mad Max inspired, post. I mean, I'm not ashamed about it. It is like my version of Mad Max. Like this guy is like kicking ass in a future world, but in different than Mad Max, there's zombies and vampires and magic and mysticism. So like all the paranormal stuff, it's like Mad Max with paranormal. If you want like the log line or the pitch. So I think it's hard without conventions. I mean, I would like being there, but we just have to wait it out. What can I do? I could run a Kickstarter. I can sell the books online. I can do these kinds of things where I'm interacting. But yeah, it's different. I mean, LA Comic Con, they were trying to do it in December. They're trying to get the go-ahead and set up to have a table there.
Yeah, heaven knows that conversation we'll be having. We've got the next conversation we're going to be having here on the show about the shows that are coming up later on this year, and LA Comic Con will definitely be coming up in
will it happen? I don't know. Look, I'll be set up. I'll have a mask. I'll have a window, I guess, like in front of my table with a little thing where I could just sell, transact money, just like you see in retail stores. I'll do it. I mean, I'll be there to try to figure out a way to get through this, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if LA is going to give the go-ahead to let the convention happen. So
it's definitely a grey area on that particular conversation. When it comes to Asylum Press then, and you're wanting to make that that real big, strong impact, I mean, what's the first books which are coming from Asylum, which you are setting the stall with?
Yeah, right. So Beyond Doomsday would be one of them. Farmhouse, which we never released in print, is a 200-page graphic novel. That would probably be kickstarted as well. Black Powder is another book that Dwayne Harris did about a buccaneer-type character in the 1812s. That's a graphic novel that's done. Undead Evil is another one that will be, it's a black and white, like Lovecraftian zombie tale, like voodoo zombies, I guess you could say, not traditional George A. Romero zombies. Yeah, there's Black Powder. A Hex of the Wicked Witch is another one. That's a black and white horror series that we're trying to finish up. Billy Boy will be another collected trade. So, not all these have been announced yet, or there's previews, but so there's like 5 or 6 titles that we'll be doing as, trade paperbacks that will be part of it. And we'll probably kickstart each of them. I would say that's a great way to do it. If we could get the fan base behind us,
like I say, it's a really good way as well to determine the interesting titles, which ones are definitely connecting with an audience.
That's true too.
Sure. We've got Solistrous Meg who's watching. If you're into horror, I've been hearing good things about Stillwater Skybound. I'll see if I can find it on eBay or something. I mean, like I say,
check it out.
the titles that I was bringing up was maybe a couple of older titles, like Winnebago Graveyard from Image. Witches is
All
another
right.
one, but the things that you're doing with Asylum, I think it's just because they are so different from everything else that's on the shelves at the moment. I think that's where
Yeah,
Asylum is going to certainly get people's attention.
yeah. I think
What?
like Asylum of Horrors and stuff, and some of the other stuff like Fearless Dawn, they always did pretty well once they got to stores. Like Asylum of Horrors, like I'll give that book out to some comic stores, as on consignment, and they'll always say it sells out. I mean, I think it's a matter of, you look at the Alley Fell cover, even Zombie Terrors, the Alley Fell cover, the fact that it's zombies and the interiors are great. I mean, look at Tim Vigil's story. I think you have to have a great cover. You have to have great interiors. So they always sold well when they got there. Even being an indie, Diamond was impressed with the numbers we would turn out. So I think it's a matter of just reacquainting people, with the brand and the product. So that's why we're just trying to get the books out. We have an eBay store. We're trying to sell on Instagram. Just be like, hey, if you haven't heard of us, check us out. We'll give 20%, 15% off. You could be reacquainted with the titles and then support us for the new stuff.
Well, I mean, it's certainly, like I say, something that's caught my attention over the course of the last couple of weeks, because about a month or so, because what Asylum Press is doing, just to get your name back out into people's
right. So
eye.
You hadn't heard of Asylum Press before a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean. Like we've been out of it for a while.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Then Detox, another title. This was a number 0 that we put out, and it's available digitally. But this would be another one that would be like a trade that we're working on finishing. But we're just waiting for the right time. And then Billy Boy, this is a number 3 that I kickstarted a few years ago. That's almost done, but this would be collected into a trade. I like the fact of having these hardcovers that, it's like floppies are difficult because you could sell them for the month they're hot. Then you got a warehouse full of these that you can't sell. But with hardcovers or trades, you could sell those for years. You could put them in, bookstores. You could bring them in. And it's a higher price point. You sell one of these, it's $15. Here you go, all this, and it's $3. So it's better to have like a bunch of these at a convention, just higher price points. You can help make your money back. Conventions are expensive,
Sure.
So,
certainly the books that the book that I was most taken with is the one that we've talked about, which is Beyond Lovecraft. As a Cthulhu fan, as a Lovecraft fan, it's certainly the one. There you go. So that's an anthology of stories that have been inspired by Cthulhu and by Lovecraft.
Yep. Yeah, there were stories that some of them were comic book stories that I had written in the 90s and they were published, and I converted them to prose. So Dead Thing, The Experiment, and then a bunch of news stories that I wrote that just like inspired by, Lovecraft, like Shocking Terrors number 13 is about a guy who goes to a convention to find this, old pulp magazine that's supposedly haunted, that has this horror story in it that's so horrific that anyone that reads it goes crazy. But all the copies have been destroyed because it's haunted, but he gets a lead that he thinks Shocking Terrors number 13 is somewhere. So he goes to these conventions, and it's based on what I always do is go to conventions looking through boxes for these like rare issues. And it's kind of like that mindset where he's looking for this haunted issue. So that's one. And like Incident at the Haxford Inn. It's just like, I read a lot of Lovecraft over the past few months. I also worked on Lovecraft Country, so I was reacquainted with stuff inspired by Lovecraft. And just created these stories. And it was like, again, like I'm sitting around, I'm like, let me try to tackle prose. I know I can write stories. Can I write prose? So that's one of them.
Well, heaven knows with Lovecraft Country, we know that people are starting to find out more about him as a writer and his kind of the stuff that he's putting out there. Is there anything else that you can share with us before?
guys wanted to see, I've got some storyboards that I worked on for Lovecraft Country. I'll try to do a screen share here.
Go for it.
Share screen.
And that we can add. There we go.
These are some storyboards from the first episode of Lovecraft Country, the war scene. So maybe I'll zoom in on these. Let's see. Maybe this is better.
There you go.
So these are kind of like just some shots, and not all of these were used, but these are just like Atticus going through the trenches, killing people. This is another version that wasn't necessarily, let me do this. Planes overhead, bombs going off. He sees this whole thing with the spaceships and everything. Spaceships coming over. And then Jiha floats down. This was kind of in the movie like this, but they made her red. You know, they changed a few things. And then behind Atticus, creature comes up. The creature design was a little different. And then, like, this is a board, like this board right here, this right here. This was Eric Yamamoto, I think. A bunch of board guys did takes on this scene, and this is just my take. And that's Jackie Robinson. You know, this is kind of a mixture of my board and Eric Yamamoto's storyboard. So that's that. That was from the first episode. This is from... So, you know, like I said, a storyboard is kind of like a basic outline for the director, DP, and visual effects guys to use when they get on set to decide what to shoot and how the visual effects will work with the live action. So it's just like this template that is used to help everybody out to know what's going on.
How have you felt that the translation has been to screen? What have you thought about the series in its completed form?
I mean, I love it. I think it's great. You know, it changes from the book. I read the book, and it goes off and it does its own thing, but then comes back to the book. So there's a lot of stuff that is in there that's not in the book, but I love what they did with it. I think it's really cool. You know, I'm liking it.
I'm about 3 episodes behind, but I think we, like I said right at the beginning of the show, the amount of content that's out there at the moment. I'm playing catch up with a lot of stuff at the moment, so right. I'm several episodes behind on that one.
Yeah,
but no,
Doom Patrol is another one I didn't watch the second season of yet. There's so much content. Now you have so much time, you can watch a lot of stuff. So sure. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, but Lovecraft Country, I'm there every week. Like tonight, I'll be there because I worked on the show. You know, I want to see what they did. Like the last episode when they were in outer space, you know, or the dance sequence when she was in the Moulin Rouge type thing. Like I storyboarded that sequence, so that was kind of cool. Oh no,
these are the ones I haven't seen yet. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, we want to point people in the direction of Asylum Press. The URL's right there on the screen, asylumpress.com. We definitely want to point people as well towards Beyond Doomsday as well, because that's looking like a really exciting project. Where else is the best place for people to find out, number one, what you're up to and what Asylum Press is up to?
Yeah, so asylumpress.com, you know, signing up for the newsletter is the best way, or just go to the website. We update the news blog frequently, and you can see previews and behind-the-scenes stuff. Frank Forte Art at Instagram, Frank Forte Art at Twitter. Those are my social. frankforte.com is another one. And oh yeah, the Goon cartoons. I don't know if we have time. Can I promote one more?
Sure, absolutely. Go for it.
So Goon cartoons, I'll go here. This is my my animation website. This is, I don't know if you want to, yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like where I do my animation. So Goon cartoons, you know, if you go to, you guys, I know, Cut It Out. If you go to Cut It Out, oh, thanks, man. Lovecraft Country is awesome. That's great. Yeah, Cut It Out episode 2, if you want to play that. This is totally inspired by Monty Python and the the animations that were done by Terry Gilliam. I loved Monty Python growing up. I loved Young Ones. I loved, Benny Hill and all that stuff. But this kind of animation is inspired by the Monty Python stuff. So I did like the cut it out kind of things that Terry Gilliam did and kind of updated it. But this is one show. But we also have Ultra Mega Super Squad, which is like a parody of superhero.
That one I'm aware of. That one I'm very aware of.
This we kind of update once a week. But if you like animation and you subscribe, you'll see all sorts of Adult Swim. What can I say? Adult Swim or Liquid Television type, cartoons. We do parodies of Cuphead, parodies of, Rick and Morty, all sorts of stuff like that. But I don't know. Is it possible to play a little bit of that one?
I think you may have to close that window and reopen it. There is actually a button that says Share Audio.
Okay.
If you do that, then you should the audio should be able to come through as well. And then to the stream.
Okay, I'm in control. Are you hearing anything?
Cut it out.
Yes, we are.
So this is kind of like.
I could definitely see the Gilliam influence.
I told him to be himself. That was pretty mean, I guess.
I love good snacking. Snacking is the most wonderful thing. You know what else is wonderful? The moon. I think the moon is so lovely. If I could, I'd get out of my home and look at the moon. But we were told we weren't supposed to leave our home because there's danger outside. Wars and fighting and such.
It's just a bunch of. It's a bunch of little shorts like that. So that's cut it out. That's one thing. But you can see totally inspired by Monty Python. This is another one, the Ultra Mega Super Squad. So this is kind of like
drive without insurance. That's like getting a tattoo.
That's an advert.
Get out of here!
Can you erase it? It's a tat.
I can't even forward through it. What the hell?
Don't you just love it on YouTube?
You
got Solicitor Smeg that's saying I could totally see this on Adult Swim. Yeah, it's definitely got that Adult Swim vibe.
The Ultra Mega Super
So this is like another little trailer for one of the. We have the episode 1 done. This is just the trailer.
Gathered together from the 5 corners of the Earth, unknown galaxy, and Dimension X, these astounding heroes have been assembled to avenge the unavengeful. The Ultra Mega Super Squad.
So that's kind of funny, So we have little.
In the great What's Not to Like.
We have little
Gamma
Woman
exposed to deadly gamma rays during a super secret government experiment, but she didn't die. She was granted superpowers.
No, I don't turn big and green when I get angry. Not all gamma-exposed humans become dumb, hulking brutes. God, people are so gamma-phobic.
Disgruntled man.
That's kind of our funny.
Yeah.
But Goon cartoons overall, I'll just go through these quick. We have like Buck Billy. I think all these are going to show adverts. So Buck Billy is kind of like this hick guy.
I was walking through my neighborhood the other day and I saw the.
So that's one thing. Cut it out. We do like these Cuphead parodies, right? Old cartoons like based on. You make them look like old cartoons, but it's like a. And some of them are really short. Like that cartoon was not more than like a few seconds.
Wow. No, there's definitely an Adult Swim vibe to these.
Watch the NBA Finals live.
And then we get adverts, of course.
Sorry.
Okay. It's cool. But can you just put that back to the top of the page so we can just see where people to head to?
Oh, it's just if you go to Goon Cartoons and search Goon Cartoons, it'll come up. And subscribe, and we publish 1 or 2 new cartoons a week.
Excellent.
So that is the other thing that I'm doing.
But it's like you say, you're keeping yourself incredibly busy with what you're getting up to. I mean, you're looking like the weekends nearly taken out of you already.
I mean, I like to be creative. I work all the time. I love comics, but I have to make money doing the storyboards. But then I also was in animation, so I like creating animation. And now I'm writing books. I mean, I'm crazy. I don't know. Something wrong with me or something. I don't know. I like to be creative. And now this time, if you don't, with COVID, like if you don't try to focus out of the news and the world and try to be creative, you're going to go crazy. Like I know a lot of people, they're depressed, they're losing their minds. And I get there too, but I just try to like block it out and try to make believe that I just have my own, give yourself your deadlines and just do it, you know?
You do right.
I'm definitely able to get stuff done on my own with my own projects. I've always been able to do that. I've got this inner drive or something that just keeps me going. Where other people are like, oh, I'm not motivated. You just got to motivate yourself. You just got to be like, I'm going to do this because I want to. And
sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, certainly from what I've seen on your Instagram and certainly on your social media, it's well worth everyone checking out Frank Forte Art on Instagram and Twitter. And once again, just to point that out, asylumpress.com. It's got some great books on the way. Like Frank has said, it's something that is definitely re-establishing itself. I believe I've also got to hand a code which has been posted through a friend site of mine, which is Tripwire Magazine.
Oh, right.
If you go to the site and use Tripwire Asylum, all one word, you get 20% off all orders as well.
Absolutely.
Do check that out. It's well worth giving it a punt and having a look. Asylumpress.com. Frank, it's been blistering to talk to you because all of this stuff that you're showing, it's been fantastic for you to share. I really hope that Asylum does well, and I'm looking forward, like I say, to the projects you've got coming, and certainly Beyond Doomsday I'm looking forward to, and the Beyond Lovecraft as well. It's just certainly it's got my attention.
You go to San Diego every year, so when they have San Diego again, you'll be there.
Well, I mean, let's fingers crossed on that. That's going to be our next topic of conversation, but we'll get into that next. Frank, thank you so much indeed for coming on, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir.
Thank you. Thanks.
Excellent stuff. Take care. So there you go. Once again, asylumpress.com. Do check out that site for some great horror comics and also the other projects he's got coming up, because it's a site that it's an imprint that's certainly putting its feelers out in different styles. So it's very, very cool indeed. Right. We're going to take a slight change of topic now. And this is off the back of a list of conventions that I started put together, because I wanted to just get an idea of the shows that are on the way. And considering that when I started racking it all up, even when I took the word wrap off, it started folding off the page, and it was all within the next month. It's just incredible. At which point I then put a tweet out saying that I felt that perhaps the conversation about virtual conventions had died off. Certainly since the DC fandom, things had just kind of quietened out, and maybe that we had in fact reached that sense of a virtual convention fatigue. Someone argued with me, and it's great to have him come on and talk to us about that. We've got Chuckload of comics joining us. Now, Chuck, you may recognize his face, especially if you've tuned in like I have with Mainstream Comic-Con.
Mainframe.
I am Mainframe.
That's okay.
Comic-Con. Oh, dear Lord. Which I'm a huge fan of. I've certainly, from the first ones that you did at the beginning of the year, which were very much a case of finding your feet, finding what you were doing with the platform, and finding what virtual conventions could be, to the shows that you are putting on right now. I mean, the latest edition of Mainframe was off the chart. And you're also teaming up with Baltimore as well in not that long to go. So it's been exciting to see Mainframe just grow and grow. Introduce yourself, let people know about you and about your background and how Mainframe came to be.
Sure. Well, I mean, my name is Chuck Lindsay, Chuck Letter Comics on YouTube. You're right, man. This last mainframe we did, mainframe number 3, actually, last month, was just madness. It was like, we keep evolving this thing and growing and saying, well, how big can we make this thing? How crazy can we get it? And we went from 1 panel hall in our first mainframe. And the last one, we had 5 panel halls going on simultaneously. We had 175 guests, 60 something panels over the course of like 48 hours. So it was madness.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of plates to be spun. You could just,
but we pulled it off. I will be the first to tell you. I was thinking, okay, something's gonna go down, something bad's gonna happen, but somehow, by the grace of God, the whole thing went off without a hitch. But basically, how it started was, really, the whole online Comic-Con kind of movement started obviously in the wake of COVID. Myself and my friend Chad Ramsden, we're both YouTubers, and throughout the year, we, like a lot of YouTubers, we go to various physical conventions. We do, con coverage, that kind of thing. We were scheduled to go to Boston with Ace. We were scheduled to go to Orlando for MegaCon. We were scheduled to do all these cons throughout the year. Of course, they all shut down. So we literally just talked to each other. It's like, why? What is it about the virtual, what is it about physical cons that you can't sort of simulate a little bit, with this whole StreamYard culture and, the live YouTubing that's just everywhere? I'm like, yeah, we could do an online convention. Why not? And we were one of the first. Mainframe was one of the first ones to be on the scene. Like you said, we were
You were very much out of the gate. Absolutely.
Trial by fire. What we found is that first mainframe, we set our sights so high. We were aiming for the stars as far as celebrities and, professionals in the industry, movie stars, television stars, people like Kevin Smith, and everybody we requested to be on the show said yes. It just blew us away because nobody even knew what it was. They were just like, oh, I don't have to leave my house. I'm stuck in my house anyway, because this was like when quarantine was quarantine. People were in their house, so everybody said yes. We had Kevin Smith, we had David Harbour, we had Clark Gregg, we had a reunion of the Kids in the Hall, we had a reunion of the cast of Clerks, we had just the comic book men on AM. It was nuts. Nobody said no. So we've tried to keep that momentum going. We've done 3 mainframe Comic-Cons. You can watch clips of them on our YouTube channel and, of course, mainframecomiccon.com. And now we're launching Baltimore Comic-Con virtually coming up at the end of October.
Because what I've really enjoyed about Mainframe is the fact that you have taken it very much like a San Diego or a New York. You haven't locked on to a certain genre. You haven't just locked on to comics. You haven't just locked on to pop culture. Some shows have tried to kind of be a father to all things, and it's been very difficult to kind of get that balance, and Mainframe has managed to pull it off. It's just been very impressive to see how it's been, like you're saying, how it's grown. I like the fact that you mentioned as well that everyone just found themselves footloose and free, available to kind of take part. It's very much the way that this show has been over the course of lockdown. All of a sudden, my guest list went through the roof because they were available, they weren't doing anything, and they were free to kind of come on.
And they're willing to do it for free, and also just the fact that the Mainframe has been completely for charity. Like, we haven't made a single nickel. We haven't accepted any money from anybody. We've been doing donation buttons on the event page, where all the money that we raise goes directly to the Hero Initiative. So when you tell people they don't have to leave their house and it only takes an hour of their time and it's for charity, they kind of can't say no. So
sure, this is true.
And also, aim high. It's like until somebody tells you can't do it, just go for it. And that's kind of what we did.
When you launched Mainframe, like you say, you were one of the first ones out of the gate. You were finding your feet, pretty much like everybody else. But it was interesting to see even the big companies finding their feet and finding what to do with it. There were some stumbles. There were some that didn't quite manage to stick the landing. I mean, I can talk about San Diego Comic-Con to some degree, because I felt that there was, while I got the idea of having literally a virtual IRL convention in that panels were being launched on the hour, there was a definite disconnect with the audience. And there's the way that some virtual conventions have been learning the ropes and learning how to do things bigger and better. How have you been seeing the landscape of virtual conventions grow from those Bambi steps back in March to where we are now?
I mean, it's exploded, no doubt about it. I mean, every single month brings about 3 or 4 different virtual Comic Cons. People, like I know Reed Pop, they're doing their Metaverse thing. Of course, everybody knows the DC Fandom, San Diego Comic Con, and they all have their own like really high quality parts and some things that maybe they should change. I feel like you are missing a lot.
Let's throw some mud here. Come on.
Okay.
I mean, which do you feel made the best strides, and which ones do you feel didn't quite stick the landing?
I mean, I enjoyed all the elements of San Diego Comic Con at home. Obviously, they didn't. I don't think they promoted it well enough, and I hate all these virtual Comic Cons that aren't live, because without that Q&A, without that kind of live feel. I mean, look what we're doing right now. I mean, we're talking live. There's no reason not to do it live, because it's just it's a Zoom culture we live in now. So all of those were missing it. I think missing that live element. I know some of them, they actually deactivate the live chats even in their YouTube feeds, so you can't even leave a comment with other fans. I think that's kind of silly. The content's great. Fandom was freaking awesome, but I felt it was a tad overproduced. I felt I was a little distracted with all the crazy virtual sets. And it looked phenomenal. When you're Warner Brothers, you got millions and millions and millions of dollars.
When you've got a couple of interns that are really handy with After Effects, you let them go.
Yeah. I think they might have gone just a little bit overboard with the Flash. But I think we're all learning as we go. I think the most important part of it is the live element. If I was to give one piece of advice to the big dogs, it's go live, man. I mean, that's what the fans want. That's what fans adore, and that's why they're going to share it with their friends. It's I don't know if I can curse. Holy crap!
You can go ahead. No,
holy shit! Kevin Smith's live with this guy, and he's answering questions. I mean, that's why not do it live? We're a Zoom culture.
Sure, certainly. I mean, that when they announced the Kevin Smith panel, I just thought Kevin Smith's primary drive is a live audience. Mm-hmm. He thrills off that. I mean, the difference between, Beyond Fatman, or Fatman Beyond is a great show, but it's certainly a contrast between that and having him on stage with a microphone facing 6,500 and feeding off that, and you definitely feel it. But when they announced it, I was wondering, should they just make this one a live one? And also, I think they should have also put up a unbleeped version, because it started to sound a little bit like the heart monitor that he was attached to 2 years ago.
a lot of beeps.
At some point, a lot of beeps. We've got Karen Session. I mean, I'm defending SDCC. They did not have a lot of time. I'd also say they didn't have a great deal of people involved, because the SDCC, Comic Con International, were working on a skeleton crew. So what they put together, fair play to them. I watched it all. I reported on it. I made absolutely.
Oh, Karen, I don't want to give the impression that I didn't like it, because, like I said, I mean, I enjoyed so many of those panels. I love the boys. Panels. I like the big stuff. I like the boys panel. I like the New Mutants panel. Got me excited about New Mutants. I mean, what they did, they totally pulled it off. I just feel like the little bit of live action would have been added a little bit to it.
Sure. And Solicitorous Meg, it feels like everything they did for virtual SDCC should have been done a long time ago, because they're just common sense things to not do it because it can't be done IRL. We kind of brought this conversation up when they announced the virtual element and San Diego Comic Con at Home, that this was basically what we have been wanting as Comic Con fans worldwide for years. They dropped the ball with Comic Con HQ, but this basically what they were doing for Comic Con at Home was what we've been asking for all this time. The panels put out so more people can enjoy them. I mean, the amount of panel organizers that have turned around and said that we have had a bigger audience for our panel than we would have had if it was being run in the convention center.
Yeah, and it's really not new, because people forget Star Wars Celebration. The people, it's Reed Pop, people that put on C2E2, they put on New York Comic Con. They do Star Wars Celebration in a different place in the country every single year, and they've always broadcast their panels live on YouTube. They've been doing it for years. That's how I've been watching Star Wars Celebration this whole time. So the model has been there. for a long time, and I'm really surprised that like San Diego and C2E2 and stuff like that hasn't been doing it for more years than just now. And I think it's definitely going to be the way it goes moving forward.
Absolutely. Which kind of begs the question then for how that's going to be for people like yourself that are putting on these shows, which are then going to have to compete against these big shows, which are finally starting to get the model right. Like you say, you've got Metaverse, which is it's already had one attempt at it, and it did what it did. But now it's doing the New York Comic Con version, and it's going to take everything that they're doing up a notch.
It's going to be huge. I mean, they're partnering with Amazon Prime for crying out loud. I don't know if it's going to be streaming on Amazon Prime, but it's their main sponsor. I feel like that first Metaverse was sort of their test.
Yeah.
Because they were already planning for New York. They didn't make the announcement until just about a month ago that they weren't doing New York physical, but everybody knew that was coming.
Sure.
So
you've got all of these shows coming up. Is it going to even be back to where we were with IRL conventions, where it's going to be difficult to actually get guests because there's so many of these shows happening? I mean, like I said, I was talking about the shows that we've got coming up, and we've got. We've had the CXC Cartoon Crossroads this weekend. We've had Mad Cave Showcase this weekend. We've had SuperCon. We've got Metaverse next weekend. Lakes next weekend. Comic Conline.
I like that. That's a good name.
Yes.
Oh, God, that's good.
Although they have put on their socials, it's the Comic Online. And I'm thinking, if you're going to put the in the title, you better step up, boo. And good grief, you better set yourself.
Comic Online. How come nobody thought of that?
Yeah. You've got, obviously, yourselves with Baltimore. You've got Thought Bubble at the beginning of next month. You've got all of these shows. Most of them that I'm seeing, James Tynan is appearing on most of them, at which point he's going to be online. His data bill is going to be quite impressive.
No kidding.
So at which point it then starts becoming interesting about how you're going to survive in that kind of landscape. Yep. I mean, what has been the conversations you've had with your partners and with the guests about just fighting off all that attention?
Can I sling a little more mud?
Go for it.
Something that we've noticed, and I just got to bring it up. I'm not going to name any names, but some of the larger cons are, and this is just asinine to me. I mean, I get it. Let me explain. Essentially, they're making their guests sign non-competes to where if you do our con, you can't do another con for another year. And I get it. They're a business. They're trying to make money. They don't want to saturate the market, but at the same time, this is for the fans, man. We're trying to build the fan culture, keep it alive, keep the convention culture going until maybe one day we get to open back up. So that's definitely been one of our roadblocks that we've hit, is these non-competes that people are starting to put into place. Also, we're getting guests that are they're having a little bit of fatigue. You talk about James Tynan. When you do one of these every single week, they just kind of get tired of them. We hit that on Mainframe 3 a little bit with some of the bigger name guests. They still did the show, but they just said, look, I'm kind of burnt out. I've been doing a lot of these things. So it is harder. And people are starting to ask for money. Like I said, the first Mainframe, nobody said no. Everybody said yes. Now we're starting to hear more from the managers. We're starting to hear more from the agents saying, okay, well, what's it going to pay? So that's why we had to actually install sort of a paid meet and greet element to Mainframe 3. It's always been free for the fans to watch, but we do have that extra element that it's an opportunity for the celebrities to make money, because we were still for charity, but you're going to start seeing more and more of that. I think you're going to start seeing more paid meet and greets, more paid panels, kind of like the ticketed events you see at some of the larger conventions. But yeah, it's harder to book guests, and people are starting to circle their wagons around their big cons with their non-competes and stuff. So I don't like it. I get it. I don't think it's good for the Comic-Con community.
Sure.
Enough
mud. No. It makes sense, because when we were in lockdown and when COVID over the course of the summer was really hitting hard, and people were very much starving for content, and they were looking to a way to connect, and guests were looking for a way to connect with an audience. The virtual conventions gave them that. It gave them that ability to continue the conversation with their audience, even while the IRL shows weren't going ahead. It was almost inevitable that the monetary element was going to start coming in, especially when you have the likes of DC Fandom and the mainframe, the Metaverse conventions. When you have basically the businesses involved, and when, like I say, the agents start making their presence known, that's unfortunate. It's back to where we were with the conventions, and when Stephen Amell started bragging about bin bags full of money being counted in back rooms, and it's the reason why this show exists is to be a funnel for the community that attends conventions, and I think that's another element of what I'm going to go on to. That the relationship with the audience can get eroded when basically the money starts rearing its head.
I mean, these people, they're their business. They've got employees. They got to pay. They don't want to fire people.
Sure.
They want to make money. But it's sad because right at the beginning, it was such a fan-made, it was just very punk rock indie thing to do, putting on these virtual Comic-Cons. And now you see the big businesses coming in and kind of, like I said, circling their wagons, and it's sort of trying, it's making it harder for the, everyday YouTuber to put on something fun.
Well, I mean, you've kind of helped yourself out in that regard, because you've partnered up with someone who I'm a huge fan of anyway, which is John Suntress from Word Balloon, which is somebody who has so many contacts and knows so many people in the industry, and he can bring so much to the party. And you have been partnering with a whole bunch of other people as well, because I've noticed the way that you did Mainframe 3 was that you basically allowed their YouTube channel to host Mainframe.
Yep.
How did that kind of conversation come about, and was it tempting to create additional channels yourself to kind of keep it all under one banner?
No, we're all part of a large YouTube community that just grows every single day, especially under lockdown. It started out with my show, Chuckload of Comics, another YouTube channel called The Comic Core, which you've probably heard about. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to The Comic Core, and a channel called The Chumpcast. So it's the three of us put on Mainframe #1, and just we're this big YouTube community. So other YouTubers wanted to get involved. Other YouTubers kind of came on board. We couldn't have done Mainframe 3 without 6 YouTube channels, because we had 6 different panel halls going on simultaneously. So we had them going on 6 different channels, all broadcasting on their Facebooks and their YouTubes. And so it's evolved. You talk about John Suntress, awesome guy to have on our team. We've really assembled a pretty kick-ass team of YouTubers, podcasters, and convention goers, and just kind of fans of the industry. Like I said, to put on this sort of indie punk rock kind of
tell me, I was bouncing from hall to hall on the last Mainframe.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was. I mean, it was, and like I say, I think the variety of the panels that you're putting on was quite impressive as well.
But yeah, Suntress has been phenomenal. Big shout out to Word Balloon and John Suntress. The guy knows everybody. You always got to have that one person on the team that just literally knows everybody. You have a meeting like, oh, could we get Tom King? Oh yeah, let me call him. Yeah, Tom King's in. It's like, oh God, I love you.
The thing that kind of prompted yourself coming on the show was that the tweet that I put out about convention fatigue. The sense that I felt that post DC Fandom, certainly, the conversation about virtual cons online, on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media, has kind of ground to a halt. Or at least it doesn't feel like there's a real buzz about shows anymore. You kind of went, okay, first you went amazing post, which was very generous of you. But then you kind of said you feel that there is still some excitement there, but you have to kind of capture it. It's almost like lightning in a bottle. Can we talk about that a bit? I mean, do you feel that there is a sense of there's a lot of these shows happening?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Sadly, it does get a little bit saturated. And, while I don't want to agree with you, I think that's why I tweeted you back and said, no, don't be crazy. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a little bit of this fatigue, and it is hard to generate momentum. We found that out with Mainframe 2, because we just tried to we jumped right into it like a couple weeks later, and we didn't have the momentum in #2 that we had in #1, and we learned that. So I feel like you got to plan them out further in advance. You got to give yourself, it's just like with maybe the first Metaverse maybe a little bit like what the viewer said about San Diego Comic-Con, is they just didn't have a lot of time to ramp up for it. We're going to have to start planning these things out 6 months in advance,
Sure.
like a long time in advance, because when there's one every 2 weeks, there is some fatigue. The trick that we've found is always be changing, always be evolving. What's going on in Baltimore is like nothing anybody's ever seen. They've got elements of Baltimore Comic-Con we can talk about later that has never been done before, never been tried before. It's going to be like a show no one's ever seen. It's not just going to be, Q&A panels and the occasional, read through of a comic book. It's going to be, they got some amazing programming. So that's it. Like changing it, keeping it fresh, because people do get bored. Like I said, the Zoom culture, people get bored of just two talking heads talking about their project for an hour. Okay. And then move on to the next talking head talking about their project for an hour. You got to come up with new ideas.
Sure.
We talked to
I'm still waiting for Zoom to sort out its audio, because I swear to God, my hearing over the course of Fandom and SDCC Online, and after a whole bunch of conventions that are happening week after week, my hearing started to go a little bit off, because that high pitched compression that Zoom does, it started to get a little bit painful after a while.
Oh God, I hope that's not the case with StreamYard.
But I think we're okay. I think we're all right. So I interrupted. You were talking about was it Mark Miller?
Mark Miller. Just as a small example, and I could talk about Baltimore for another hour.
But
well, we all have shit we got to do. But Mark Miller, just for an example, like some of the fun stuff. I want to talk about the guests, but some of the more funner content going on at Baltimore Comic-Con. If I can plug it real quick, it's October 23rd through the 25th. So it's going to start off on a Friday night, and it's going to run all the way through Sunday. It's going to run all day from like noon to midnight, 12 hours a day. Craziness with, I think, 3 different panel halls. But Mark Miller, for example, he doesn't want to just come on and talk about Kick-Ass. He doesn't want to come on and talk about the Kingsman. He's like, I'll talk about fucking everything. He's an Irishman, so he's like, I'll talk about anything, but I just want to drink. I just want to, have a good old time. I'm going to talk about everything I'm doing at Netflix. I don't give a fuck. he's like, can we call it Miller's Pub? And we all just kind of hang out and drink and stuff. And I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome.
Please tell me that's going to be at the back end of the
8 o'clock
programming.
your time is noon our time. So you're kicking off day 2, man. We can't get hammered right at the beginning of the show. But he's so excited about that. We're doing live game shows with kind of a Ben Stein's Money kind of thing with Tom Brevoort from Marvel. So we're going to have all these comic book creators coming on, and they're going to play like Jeopardy against each other to see who knows more about. It's actually BaltimoreComicConLive.com is the website.
I can edit that.
We got that going on. We've got we were doing a live drink and draw, which is going to be a fun ticketed event where we got like 10 comic book creators, like the top names, top artists. The list will be announced this week, and you can buy a ticket. You can sit in the Zoom with them, and they're all just going to, be sketching and drinking and sketching and drinking. And then with your ticket, you get to keep the sketch. So we're going to sell, I think, 100 tickets to this thing, so everybody can just hang out together. You're guaranteed to get a sketch from one of the top names in the comic book industry. That's going to run for like 2 hours on Friday night. And of course, the live Ringo Awards, which we're so excited about. One of the things that makes Baltimore is the Mike Ringo comic book awards. It's right up there with the Eisners. It's
sure is
very much a coveted award, and so we're actually going to do them live in real time. We are in talks with Kevin Smith to host it. We're in talks with who's a guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm and the Goldbergs, Jeff Garlin. We're talking about maybe doing Kevin Smith and Jeff Garland hosting the thing, because I'm broadcasting from Chicago right now, and Kevin Smith's going to be in Chicago with his new Movies pop-up bar, or his pop-up restaurant. The Movies is going to be in Chicago. So we might be doing the Ringos live from Movies with Kevin and Jay.
Wow.
I mean, we got an entire room devoted just for to kids comics and stuff, where kids can actually learn how to draw comics and draw comic book characters live in real time with the artists. It's going to be very kind of play along and sing along. The list of guests is, Evil Ted Smith. I don't know if all you cosplayers out there, he's going to be doing a live demonstration. He's going to build a foam prop, like a foam helmet, live in real time in the show. And people can, ask questions totally live, real time in the chat board. We got John Campia coming on, showing the first look of his new movie. Joel Jones. Lloyd Kaufman's going to be there signing autographs.
I'm still waiting on someone to talk about Mark Wade and about his the court case, because I want him to slam dunk some of these guys. I don't
think we'll do any of that. No, but Mark Wade actually, it's really cool. He's doing you see right here Susan Eisenberg. She's the voice of Wonder Woman on the Justice League. They're taking Mark Wade's Kingdom Come comic book, and Mark Wade's going to be moderating that panel. And we've got Susan Eisenberg and George Newbern, who is the voice of Superman in the Justice League. They're going to be doing the voices of Wonder Woman and Superman. And they're going to read through Kingdom Come live on air with Mark Wade moderating. It's going to be freaking amazing.
Nice. I mean, it is one hell of a lineup. I mean, it's great to see Chaikin on a lineup.
I love Howard. Howard's so much fun. He's just the craziest dude,
isn't he? Just great to see Dennis Cowan, because he came over to the UK. So it's I'm a big fan of him as a panel guest, because he really will just talk about anything. He's very loose, very free, very cool dude.
And a lot of these guests are going to be doing multiple panels. Like we got Tom King doing he's going to be doing the Watchmen panel with drawing a blank here, not Conway. Anyway, so we got Tom King's going to be on 3 different panels. Howard Chaikin's going to be in a couple different panels. It's going to be great, man. We got way more coming. The first wave of panels are going to get announced tomorrow on Monday.
Cool. So
go to Baltimore Comic Con Live for that first glimpse of some of the awesome stuff that's going to be happening in Baltimore.
And of course, theconventioncollective.com will be summarizing all the panel updates as well.
Awesome.
There you go. That's me putting my little thing out into the air.
Like I said, you got to keep changing, man. You got to keep evolving. You can't just stick on, the 6 talking heads talking about their upcoming project. You got to. The way to beat fatigue. This has been a long answer to a short question. Is just come up with new ideas, man. Keep it fresh. Keep it live. Keep it fun.
The one thing that San Diego tried to do, indeed a number of the conventions have tried to do, is solve the problem of the retailers that have usually had a table and really have been depending on a lot of income from the convention calendar over the course of 2020. All of that income which has been taken away from them. A lot of conventions have tried to make that element available virtually, and it's one element for me which hasn't quite worked. Do you feel there's anywhere that has gotten the closest to actually creating that kind of over the table experience, the ability to get money changing hands with a creator?
You're 100% right, and that's really the reason the Baltimore Comic-Con Online is even existing, as a way to try and help out these exhibitors that were going to be at the physical con. They count on this to keep their businesses afloat, and so we're doing it. You're right. No one's done it right. It's hard when why buy it from this comic book website when I could just go to Amazon and buy it. So something we're doing at Baltimore in an effort to raise money for these people is we're doing a Thursday night auction. So we are still going to have the exhibitors on the website, but each one of those exhibitors is going to have an opportunity to ship us some exclusive products, and we're going to do a live 6-hour auction to where we're actually going to be selling their products. We're going to have it physically right there for each one of the exhibitors, just as a way to kind of tickle the buying bone and get people excited. Hey, we got 2 copies of this Spider-Man comic. Once it's gone, it'll be available tomorrow at the con in the exhibitor thing. So the kind of QVC style. We got 5 of these statues, and when they're gone, don't worry, you can buy them tomorrow at the convention. So that's something we're trying to do, because you really do got to kind of tickle the buying bone, and you got to convince people to go in there. Why would you buy that T-shirt from BaltimoreComicConLive.com when you could buy it, anywhere?
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that you use QVC, because that was actually going to be the example I was going to say. I'm surprised that no one's created that. I mean, like you say, you've got the multiple halls. That separate track of inviting creators on for 10, 15 minutes to sell their wares, put their items forward, and actually put them up on screen, show the links, and actually talk about them and make that connection with an audience. I'm surprised that more haven't done that, to kind of.
That's a great idea.
Just to use the video, use the video track, and just kind of, and Because at the end of the day, the retailers or the exhibitors, they're kind of sat there twiddling their thumbs as well. They're wanting to connect. So while you've got all these video tracks going on, I'm surprised that no one's taken that one.
That's a great idea. I mean, that's what it's going to take. Exactly what you just said. I hope everybody's watching.
You need to find someone with a sparkly suit and with the full QVC set. And
without a doubt. you got to have somebody with really pretty hands who's okay doing close-ups, a freshly manicured hand, and just selling statues and stuff. That's a phenomenal idea. And if we ever do it, we're going to have you on to be our QVC host.
Thank you. I don't know what my energy is going to be like because long days of conventions, virtual conventions. I do start flagging. I'm not going to lie, and I'm stunned at how you do it. I really am very impressed with the way that you guys hold your energy up over the course of a day. When do you start flagging, and what are your tips to kind of keep the energy up?
Just be prepared, man. Be extra prepared and start drinking right around the fourth quarter, and you're good. I
can imagine the Red Bull gets
when that
goes intravenous, you know you're in trouble.
Just take a cue from Jerry Lewis, man. Just like do a panel, take a step back, chill out, and then dive right back in. It ain't gonna last forever. It's not a 24-hour con, although I'm sure those are coming.
That is going to be one of the next questions I wanted to ask about the whole idea of the timing and when to put these on, because obviously for yourselves, you work on the time frame and the time zone that you're in, but then you look at things the way that DC Fandom did, and they did that 24-hour broadcast.
Yeah,
what was it, 24? And admittedly, yes, it was the same content repeated with 8-hour blocks, but you're right. The whole idea of a 24-hour event for the worldwide audience. I mean, we've got Andrew English who's making the comment. Conventions are saturated, but geography used to help. Now everything is online. Now the world is your audience, and I think that's. I'm certain that you must be thrilled when you get those comments coming in on the Q&A and on the chat from
that's the best,
far afield.
Yeah, hey man, I'm just watching in Singapore. Holy crap, someone's watching this. What time is it in Singapore?
Do we need subtitles?
But that is, exactly. That's actually another big thing, because if you're broadcasting on YouTube, if you don't have 10,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, you don't get automatic subtitles. So you have to cater to the hearing impaired audience. You got to start taking into account time zones as well. Because that's something we did with the first mainframe. We sort of catered it to the East Coast, and we're like, wait a second. Half our audience, half our guests are coming in from the West Coast. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning for them. We had Boss Logic, who's out in Melbourne, Australia, and he was doing his panel at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning over in Melbourne. So you really got to take that stuff into consideration. And maybe a 24-hour con is the way to really draw in a worldwide audience. Although, God, what a pain in the ass it would be to do for 24 hours straight.
If there's anyone who can pull it off, I think Mainframe is the
I'm sure we're going there. I'm sure we're
heading in that direction. Cool. So Listerous Meg, I don't know what on earth I've set myself up for here and why I open my mouth, but the real question, does Leonard have a rhinestone-studded suit to wear? No, I don't. But listen...
I do.
I'll get. Oh God!
I'll ship it to you, man.
This is going to be a fun year. Okay, listen. I'm looking forward to Baltimore. I like to say I've been a big fan of what Mainframe have done up to now, and I'm really looking forward to it. Is there anything else that you would like to promote? Anything you'd like to put forward before we wrap things up?
No, we're just really pushing Baltimore Comic-Con live, and if you're watching this and you didn't know it existed, please share it, because like we talked about ad nauseum just now, promotion is everything. Getting the word out, because there's so many of them going on. So please tell people about BaltimoreComicConLive.com. Share it on social media. Monday, we're going to get the first panel drops, so check it out Monday. We got some amazing stuff. Scotty Young's going to be coming, and he never does virtual Comic-Con. Scotty Young has told us no on all 3 mainframes. He didn't do New York. He didn't do San Diego. He didn't do anything. He's doing Baltimore because it's Baltimore. Baltimore is one of the biggest conventions for comic book creators. Like it's the one that the comic book creators really love. So he said, Baltimore, yeah, I'll do it. So
I'm incredibly lucky. Somehow I've managed to land him for a November appearance on this show.
You are lucky. He hates doing these Zoom things, man. He's like, I love you guys. I love what you're doing. That's not my thing. So hold on to that one, man.
Yeah, I'm going to be making damn sure I check in regularly to make sure he's available to do it. But also with Scotty Young as well, he's starting to get his head around YouTube. He's starting to get his head around monetizing YouTube and his audience. So yes, I'm hoping that there isn't going to be a DocuSign document heading in my direction where I have to sign something in the near future. But
could be. Well, we won't make him sign a non-compete. Don't worry. We're not like those other guys.
Good man. Listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for coming on. And this all came off the back of a tweet that I put out with a little bit of frustration for myself. I think you've kind of allayed my fears a little bit. And like you say, I'm hoping that if virtual cons are the established norm now, that events like yourself really do set the stall for good quality conventions going forward, because that's what I feel you've done.
I'm excited about the future for it because, like I said, I don't belittle I won't talk too much about this, but I mean, the way they're evolving, the way they're getting better, the way people are getting more creative with them. I'm excited about the future for virtual events and whatever, keeps us alive until we can actually meet together again in real life.
There's that, isn't there?
At least it's something free we can all do.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much indeed for coming on. And looking forward to for Baltimore and for everything else that Mainframe's got coming down the pipe.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Leonard. And
it's been a pleasure.
Big shout out to Frank. He did an amazing job.
Thank you. And listen, I'd love to get you back on later on down the line. I mean, maybe beginning next year or even towards the end of this year when we do start seeing where we are with virtual cons. And like you say, how the big guns maybe have changed the landscape a bit.
Great,
I think
fantastic.
I think that'll be an interesting conversation to have.
I completely agree. Keep up the great work. Get fitted for that rhinestone suit because we'll be calling you.
Thank you. As long as I
get those nails manicured, man. There's going to be a lot of extreme hand close-ups.
Have I got that? Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. Take care.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too. Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for Chuck for coming on. Once again, if you haven't if you haven't checked out a Mainframe Comic Con, I mean, we did have the comment from earlier. Where is it? Aaron Neighbours, who turned around props to Mainframe Comic Con, enjoyed them very much. I am a huge fan of those shows and what they've been doing. So very much going forward. Check out that site, and the URL is right there. Baltimore Comic Con Live. Do check it out. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We had two interesting conversations about a publisher that's wanting to really establish themselves on a very crowded comics shelf, and likewise with the Baltimore Comic Con and with Mainframe. It's another aspect of our fandom which is getting very crowded, but it's been fun to see the whole thing evolve across all the platforms. Right, I do want to share something in terms of what we've got coming up in the next few weeks and months, considering we've got ourselves some great guests coming up. And Frank Forte we had today. Next week, Jason Inman is going to be joining us. He's going to be an interesting guy to talk to. Certainly somebody who's hosted for Mainframe. He's someone who, if you read comics or if you know your fandom, Jason Inman is someone who's passionate. He knows his stuff, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him. On Sunday, it's going to be a little bit of a show like this. It's going to be a double header. We're going to start with a conversation with Monty Nero, who is a independent comics artist who's got himself a couple of projects which he wants to talk about. But then Mark Serby is going to be coming on as well, and he's going to be talking to us about London Film Comic Con or London Film Festival, which is happening. I think it's either happening soon or it's recently happened. It's going to be interesting to talk to Mark, especially with the news that came out today, with, of course, Cineworld here in the UK suspending all of its screens until the new year indefinitely, off the back of the putting back of No Time to Die, the latest James Bond film, to Easter. At which point you have to then start thinking about how I mean, I was hoping that we were going to be seeing some kind of indefinite end to this, where we were going to see the return of IRL conventions. We were going to see the opening up of things like cinemas and all sorts of content. I was hoping that we were going to see that soon, and I was, at the very least at the beginning of next year. But now things are starting to look a little bit dicey. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting conversation to talk to Mark Serby. Then on Sunday, 25th of October, we've got Milton Lawson talking to us as well. Like I say, those other episodes that are coming up, I'm hoping that we're going to get the creative team behind Crossover. Yes, this is a new book that's coming from Image. It comes at the beginning of next month. I've been enjoying doing these episodes where we get the creative team behind a book and getting them in to talk about their upcoming project. Crossover is an interesting one in that the concept's really simple. Imagine all of your superheroes from everything, from DC, from Marvel, from Image, from Aftershock, from Vault, from Boom, from all of these places, suddenly appearing above the skies and fighting one big giant comic book melee, that big splash page, except it's happening for real, and the real world is getting absolutely smacked down. It's a cracking concept because then you really can bring Spider-Man and Batman into the same panel. You can refer to them as being those two things that are bringing down a building. That's the building I work in. What the hell is going on? It's a really cool concept. Donny Cates is behind it. You've also got some amazing talent behind it. We're trying our best to get them guys on the show to do a episode about Crossover. Donny Cates has liked the tweet. Fingers crossed. Likewise, the guys behind Vault Comics. We've had individual members of the Vault Comics team come on before. We're going to do our best to bring them all in and have a Vault Comics special again at the beginning of next month. So fingers crossed on that one. Amanda Dybert, we're going to be having her on the show. Like I say, Scotty Young is on the way. We've got ourselves some great guests, so do stick with us. Like, subscribe, hit that button, hit that bell, and it tells you when we go live, especially if we're doing any incidental episodes, those that are off the beaten track and away from our Sunday schedule. So please do like and subscribe and follow what we're doing below. So there we go. Let's have a look at this. Dan Berry talking about the Cineworld closure also affects the Regal Edwards change in the States, which is huge. That I didn't know. Wow. Is it the same time frame? Is it they're looking at Easter? Have they got a date announced? That's interesting. Can you please message me about that? Didn't realise that was connected. That's insane. Into the Blue Mister. Mark is always a fun guest, isn't he? Just Mark Serby, it's great to going to be having him on. Jason Inman is awesome. Looking forward to it, says Aaron Neighbours. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to Jason because he's always a fun. Yeah, he's a fun. I've never talked to him before, so I'm really looking forward to talking to him. And then Dan Berry, I'm excited that Madman is going to be in the crossover title. I'm just excited about everyone that's excited that's going to be in the crossover title. It's going to be interesting because this has been a year of big event books, and I don't just mean Empire or Fantastic Four versus Avengers or something. I don't mean those kind of events. I'm on about big headline grabbing titles. The Department of Truth, the books that have come, Berserker from Keanu Reeves. All of these titles are vying for your attention, and they are wanting to be the next big thing. So yeah, really interesting to talk about all of this stuff. So yeah, looking forward to it. That's our show. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, I'm going to be here again next week with Jason Inman, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. From myself, Leonard, from Frank Forte, and from Chuck from Mainframe Comic Con. Thanks for your company. Thanks for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.